In this video, we will have a look at Android services. So if you go to the developer's website, developer.android.com, and you go and search for services, you can see that a service is an application component that can perform long-running operations in the background, and it does not provide a user interface. Another application components can start a service and it continues to run in the background even if the user switches to another application. Additionally, a component can bind to a service to interact with it and can perform inter-process communication. For example, a service can handle network transactions, play music. We're going to look at play music today, and perform file input-output, or interact with a content provider, all from the background. So if you go down a bit, you can see there's the basics. There's a few methods that we can use when working with services. So these are the most important methods, and one of them is the onStart command. So the system invokes this method by calling start service, and this start service will call in the main activity when another component such as an activity requests that the service be started, and when this method executes, the service is started and can run in the background indefinitely. And then if you implement this, it's your responsibility to stop this service calling stop self or stop service. So we'll look at the onStart command. And then there's also the onBind method. You can read about the onBind. We're not going to use the onBind today. We're going to basically use onStart command. We're also going to use the onCreate method, and the system invokes this method to perform one-time setup procedures when the service is initially called. So basically before onStart command or onBind, the onCreate method runs. And then, so first when we create the service, onCreate will run, and then onStart command. And then when you destroy the service, the system invokes this method when the server is no longer used and it's being destroyed. And your service should implement this to clean up any resources such as threads, registered listeners, or receivers. And this is the last call that the service receives. So we're going to have a look at all of these methods, just not the onBind, because we're going to just play back some music. So it's going to be the onStart command. We're going to have a look at the onCreate and the onDestroy methods. And then you can look at how to declare this in the manifest and so forth. So we're going to have a look at the coding part now. So I've just created a new application. And in this application, basically the graphical user interface in the main activity will just show a play button there. So I've got two pictures there that I've downloaded, play and stop. And you can basically go and use any picture online. So just go to Google and search for play or stop button and use your own stop or play button there. So this play button that I've got here is labeled for reuse on Google. So we've got no problem showing this picture here. So basically what I've done there is this is an image view that I copied. And if I go to the properties, you can see that the ID for this image view is called Ivy Play Stop. And then the source is that play button. So I'm showing the play button. Just make sure to go and make this one clickable in the clickable property. And then I use the layout gravity to set it to center horizontal. Move the margin from the top 25 dp. And then the width and the height for this component is 250. So that's just how it will display initially. And then when we click on it, obviously when you start playing something, you click on it, the stop button must start showing. So this is what we've got there is the stop button. So the stop button looks like this. We'll also resize it a bit. And there's the play button, the one that's currently showing. So please just go to Google and get your own pictures there and see if you can use those pictures on an image view. So that's basically all I've done there is to just add this image view to the main activity. And then I gave it an ID called Ivy Play Stop. So now if you go to your main activity Java file, you can see it extends app-compat activity. There's the declaration for the image view. I just called it Ivy Play Stop also. And then to that Ivy Play Stop, I connected it to the main activities XML file. To find the view by its ID, and the ID for that one is Ivy Play Stop. Okay, so that is setting up the image view. Then also on that image view, because I made it clickable, I'm now able also to set an on-click listener on it, so that when we click it, it acts like a button and it will go into the on-click property or the on-click method. So now the coding for this part, we're going to get back to this coding. You'll also see that I've got an audio link there. So this is just a link to a file for us to actually be able to play this file or this music clip now. And how I did this is to actually take any MP3 file or whatever type of music file that will work on your phone. So I've taken an MP3 file that I got for free on the internet, and I just placed it inside of my Dropbox folder. So I don't know if you guys know Dropbox, but that's a very nice service to use. So just go and create yourself an account at Dropbox. If you don't have one, you get 2 gigs of data for free. And basically what you do is you just drop in that one MP3 file there. And as soon as the MP3 file has been synced online, you can right click on that file and just say get public link. And that gets a link to that document in the form as this one that I've just pasted here. Just note that when you get that link, it will show www.dropbox.com. Just replace the www with a DL. And that gets you a direct link to that specific file for audio playback. Okay, so now let's start with creating our service. So in the manifest file, because we're gonna play music directly from an internet location, I'm gonna say users permission, and I want to use the internet there. So that's very important that you place that one user's permission there. It's not a dangerous permission, so we don't need to handle that permission encoding, but it must be in the Android manifest file. Then the next part that we need to do is to actually go and add your service. So how do we add a new service? Just go to your project folder, or not to your project folder, to your package folder there, right click, say new, and you're going to go down to service, and you can just use a normal service there. We're going to call this one my play service, just to create the service. I'm not going to check export it there, but it must be enabled. And then your service gets created. So now if you go to your Android manifest file, you can see that there's the service, there's the name of the service. It's enabled, true, and exported false, whatever. And if you go back then to your my play service, you can see that we've got the onBind method there already. So let's just add a few other methods there as well. So I'm going to go to code override methods, and we'll use the onCreate method there. And then I'll also use, let's just go to code override methods. We'll also use the onStart command method. And then, yeah, I don't know, this auto-generated method is giving a problem here. I don't know what's the problem there, but just remove that part there so that you only have this, then it should be fine. And then after the onStart command, we also have the onDestroy method. So that's the methods that we looked at on the website as well. So basically the method that runs first when you start using the service will be the onCreate and then onStart command. And then when you stop this service, it goes to the onDestroy method. Okay, so now this service of ours will be a special type of service where we will actually play back music. So for this service to play back music, we need to implement a few interfaces. So we're going to say implements, and the first one there will be media player dot, and the first one will be the onCompletion listener. So let's just go to onCompletion listener. That's one interface that we're going to implement. And remember, we can implement more than one interface. So just put a comma there, and let's add another one there. It's going to be media player dot, and the next one will be onPrepared listener. And then just put a comma again. I'm just going to go to a new line there so that everything just stays on the screen. And after the onPrepared listener, let's use the onError listener. So that's android.media.mediaPlayer, onError listener. And then let's go to the onSeek complete listener. That's also one we're going to use there. Then there's an onInfo listener, that we must implement there. There's also an onBuffering update listener, Let me just go to a new line for that one as well. And then if you click on it and you say Alt-Enter there, you can say implement methods. And then it gives you the onBuffering update method, onCompletion method, the onError, the onInfo, the onPrepared, and the onSeek complete methods. So just click OK there, and it implements all of those methods automatically for you. Okay, so now let's add a few declarations at the top after all those implements. So these are all of the interfaces that we're going to implement while using this service to play back music. If you're using this service for anything else, you will probably not have these implements there. Okay, so One variable that we're going to use here is the media player itself. So we're going to say private media player of android.media, and we're going to call this one media player as well. And we're going to set up the media player now in the onCreate. So remember, the onCreate method is the method that you use to set up everything before you go into onStart command, which actually runs the service. So before we carry on, let's just add a few more variables here. So the next one I'm going to use here is the link. Now remember, we've got the link in the main activity. So I'll show you how do we pass this link then to your service, and we can use it then. So that's going to be the link. And for the rest, we're going to get to the rest of the declarations as we carry on. So now let's go into the onCreate method quickly. Now in the onCreate, we're going to set up that media player. So I'm going to say media player equals new media player. And then there's a few listeners that we need to set up, and it's basically these that we've implemented now. So we're going to set an on, let me just start from the top there, the on completion listener. And then we're just going to pass in this because we said implements on completion listener, which means that this service is a on completion listener. So that's why I can just pass in this there, and it will go to the on completion method if that needs to run. Okay, and then the media player, we're going to also set, so if you go to the top there, the next one is the on prepared listener, and we're going to also pass in just this. And then again, media player dot set on, the next one is the on error listener, and also just going to pass in this there. And then also media player dot set, after the on error, we've got to do the on seek complete, on seek complete listener. Then again, dot set, after the on seek, it's the on info listener, also just passing in this. And then on the media player object again, dot set, and then it's the on buffering update listener, on buffering update listener. And we're also going to pass in this. Okay, so that's basically what we need to set up. We made a connection to the media player, and then we set all of these listeners to the media player. Now in the onStart command, remember the onStart command runs directly after your onCreate. So after setting up the media player, we can now start playing the music. So I'm going to say link equals, and now I'm going to get the link from the main activity. In the main activity, we will start the service with an intent, and with that intent, I'm going to pass through this audio link. So you'll see the onStart command gets back an intent there. What am I doing now? Let's just go back there. So the onStart command gives us an intent object there, and that intent object will be the intent that started this specific service. So now, using that intent, I can get back data, and I'll get back to this one on how do we get actually that specific link there, because we still need to use a put extra method on an intent to pass through this. So we'll get to that one, and I'll explain that again. But basically, to get the link, I'm going to say it's equal to intent dot get string extra, and then I'm going to call the data audio link. Remember, this get string extra basically works as a key value pair that you pass in. Sorry, not audio line, audio link. So I'm going to get the audio link from the main activity, and then it will be displayed or will be saved in link. So I'll show you now when we get to the main activity, how do we send it through this side. But this is how we will get it. We get to the intent that we're going to pass through to here, get the data called audio link, which will be this link that we're passing through. Okay, so that link is basically just this link that we've got there. Then just before we use the media player, we're going to say media player dot reset. Let's just say reset. Now, if you look at the reset method, if you hover over it, you can see it resets the media player to its uninitialized state. And after calling this method, you will have to initialize it again by setting the data source and calling prepare. So for now, we should set the data source there. So the first thing we'll need to do is to first go and test if the media player is not playing. So we're just going to call the isPlaying method. So if the media player is then not playing at the start of this specific run of the service in the onStart command, if it's not playing, then we're going to try and start this to play. Okay, so we're going to have a try and a catch block there, and let's catch a normal exception for now, and we can change it afterwards. So the media player, we just test if the media player is not playing, what do we want to do? So now we want to set the data source. Remember what the reset method says, we should set the data source and then call prepare. Okay, so we've got the media player there. Let's call the set data source, and the data source will be this link that we pass through. So that's our data source. It comes from that Dropbox file called this one there. That's our link. That's our data source. We're going to play the MP3 file directly from there. Then we're going to call media player dot prepare. Now you can see there's a prepare method and there's a prepare async method. So if you hover over the prepare async, you can see it prepares the player for playback asynchronously. And after setting the data source and the display surface, you need to either call prepare or prepare async. For streams, which we are going to do, you should call prepare async, which returns immediately rather than blocking until enough data has been buffered. So that's what we want to do. We want to stream that music, so we need to call prepare async. So then we catch the exception there. Now, if you want, you can catch this illegal state exception, which will also work there, but it doesn't really matter for this example now. So we're going to have an error there, and then I'm just going to show e.getMessage if there's an error, and we can show the exception if something happened. And then when we return now, it's actually a weird return statement here. It's going to be start sticky. Now, if you hover over it, let me just scroll up a bit there. If I hover over it, you can see this is a constant to return from onStart command. If the service process is killed while it started, after returning from the onStart command, then leave it in the started state, but don't retain its delivered intent. Later, the system will try to recreate the service because it is in the started state. It will guarantee to call the onStart command after creating the new service instance. And if they, let's go back there, if there are not any pending start commands to be delivered to the service, it will call this with a null intent. And then you can see there the bottom part says this mode makes sense for things that will be explicitly started and stopped to run for arbitrary periods of time, such as a service performing background music playback. Okay, so because we are using background music playback, we should return start sticky. Okay, so this is the onStart command method. That's all we're going to do. Basically, the service will just playing or start playing this. If it's not playing, we will actually start setting the data source and start playing the music. Right, so now the next part is to go to the onCompletion. Basically, the onCompletion listener will run this method as soon as your music has stopped playing. So in the onCompletion listener, there's a few things that we want to do here. So you can see there's the media player object. It's passed through as an MP there. So I'm going to call that or use that variable there, MP, which is the music player or the media player. And we're going to test if the media player is playing at this stage and it completes. I'm just going to say mp.stop, which will stop the whole thing from playing. And then afterwards, after we completed playing this specific music file, we need to stop this specific service. And this you can do by just calling stop self, and it will stop this service from running. So because we're only playing we're using this service to only play one song, as soon as the song is done playing, we stop it and we stop the service from running by calling stop self. Now the next method that we're going to quickly have a look at is the onError method there. So there's the onError method, and we can keep that return false there. So in the onError method, if something happens while running or while playing the music, there's an error code that we can have a look at. So you can see there's the media player was passed in, and then what is the error, what happened there. So I'm going to pass in the what there, which is the second argument integer. And then there's a few cases that we can test for. So the first one is from the media player class, and it's called media underscore error. Maybe we need to go to media player first, media player dot media underscore error underscore not valid for progressive playback. So that's one of the errors that can occur. And we're just going to show the toast there. I'm just going to show this whole error message there, just to show what happened there, and maybe just go to a new line, and then we can break. So that's one error that can occur. Another one that can occur is when the server died. So it's media, let's just go underscore error server died. That's another one that can happen. If your server is just not working anymore, something happened with the server, we can't play back that file or the link to that file, and then we break again. Another case there could be the media error unknown. There's an unknown error, don't know what the error is, and so forth. So you can keep on running through these errors and see if you can catch all of these errors there. I'm just going to copy it, paste it there, media error unknown, and then we can break again. So these are some of the errors that we can catch then. If there's an error, we can just show a toast to the user. This is what happened, an error occurred, and then you can redirect him doing something else or whatever you want to do.